Okay, let's talk now about the veins of the torso. And here's page 78, which shows all of the major veins in the torso area. You can see on this page that there are three sections of veins. So let's begin to describe those. The superior portion are all of the major veins that drain into the superior vena cava. The superior vena cava and its tributaries are drawing blood from all of the shoulder and head area. Let's add just a little color here overall so you can see all of the various areas here. So this system of veins is draining all of this blood down into the heart through these major tubes. In the center of the body is the azygos system. Now, these veins are going to be draining blood from the body wall, from the intercostal muscles, the ribs, and the blood vessels in the lumbar area. And then the inferior group, the inferior vena cava and all of its tributaries, is draining blood from the hips and the lower limb and major organs in the abdominal cavity. Let's start with the superior vena cava and its tributaries. We'll cross out a few here that you don't need to learn. In place of these, we're going to add a few that are labeled in the picture, but that you should be able to identify. So what do we see here? You can see that we have the internal jugular veins, letter C, in the picture. The right and left brachiocephalics, the superior vena cava, all of these major veins in that area. In the picture, the two subclavian veins are labeled. They're not in the list, but they're labeled. And those, along with the external jugulars that you can see, also labeled in the picture, will be included. So let's color these in. Here's the superior vena cava, letter H. From the right and the left side come the right and left brachiocephalics. Each one of these, you can see, is drawing blood from one side of the upper portion of the body or the other. You must be able to label these as the right brachiocephalic and the left brachiocephalic. The little internal thoracics are colored here and are actually drawing from the inside of the thoracic cavity. They're minor, but you should be able to identify them here. And then the two subclavians, as I said just a moment ago, they are labeled, but you want to be able to identify them. They're not in the list that you see, but make sure that you could identify those. The blood vessels that are reaching up toward the head are here, and you should be able to identify both of the ones you see. These are the internal jugulars. These are the ones that drain directly from the brain. They reach inside the skull, which is why they're called internal. And then you see right beside each of those the external jugular veins. These are draining blood from the outside of the skull, from the region of your face, your neck, areas at the back of your head, but all of it outside of the skull. So let's color in those external jugulars here. And give me a second to arrange that, and I'll get these done as well. And here we are. Let me see. Okay, so let's color in these external jugular veins. Here they are. And as I said before, these are draining from the outside of the skull. So, series of veins, 2 pairs of jugulars above, subclavians, all of this draining into brachiocephalix, all of this draining into the superior vena cava. So, these are the ones to learn. These are the ones that are all part of deoxygenated blood from the upper limb of the human body returning to the heart, to the right atrium, where it can be sent to the lungs to receive more oxygen and then come back. Okay, let's look at the inferior vena caval system. This is the inferior vena cava drawing blood from the lower reaches of the body. You can see here that the inferior vena cava begins below where there are 2 common iliacs. These are drawing blood, deoxygenated blood, from the hip area of the body. And you can see 2 smaller blood vessels feeding into those. And we'll discuss those when we discuss the lower limb more. And then here in the venous system, this is like the arteries that we looked at before. These are the paired blood vessels, like this pair of renals, the testicular or ovarians. We give them both a label here because we don't have the blood vessels there. And then you can see up above, I've just colored in what are called the hepatic veins. Now you should know here that the letter here is mislabeled. Where you see hepatic, it says letter R. There is no letter R in this picture, okay? And you have to take that little letter R and cross that out. And then where those stubs are, in the picture you will see the little letters V in the picture, little letters V, and that will match those up for you. The hepatic veins are draining blood from the liver. And remember that there's a separate set of veins for all of the digestive blood. The blood that is returning from the digestive system is moving into the liver for processing. And then it's traveling through these little stubs, and the processed blood now can enter the inferior vena cava. And it also then is on its way back to the heart. So that's the inferior vena cava. It's pretty simple because all of the blood vessels from the stomach, the liver, the spleen, the intestines, all of those are going into the liver. So they would not show on this systemic diagram. So it's just the veins here that we would consider, part of the retroperitoneal area, the area behind the peritoneum where the kidneys and the reproductive organs are that we're considering here. And that then leaves the third area, the azygos system here, for us to look at and to understand. Now, the first thing to note here is the many, many, many little horizontal blood vessels, one next to each rib. These are called the posterior intercostals, and you see them labeled as D1. You can cross out the superior intercostal. I won't ask that. It's there to handle some of the upper ribs, but we just want to focus on the main part of it here. And that is all these little posterior intercostal veins. Any oxygenated blood that was given to the intercostal muscles or the ribs is circulating back into systemic venous circulation through these little tubes. These are equally spaced, one for each rib. And notice that there are similar ones down in the lumbar area, and these are called the lumbar veins. All of these little ones drain then into 4 other tubes, which ultimately all connect to one another. You can see the ones on the left-hand side are going to drain into 2 of these. And then this one on the right, this ascending lumbar, is going to collect all of the right-hand side of the blood. So ascending lumbar on the lower abdominal right side. The 2 hemiazygos, the hemiazygos and hemiazygos accessory, are draining from the left side. And you can see that the accessory was draining from the superior part of the thoracic cavity, the true hemiazygos from the inferior part. All 3 of these is now draining into the azygos, and you can see that then go up and enter into the superior vena cava. So all of this blood from the body wall, the abdominal muscles, the intercostal muscles, the ribs, the vertebra, all of these structures are draining their venous blood through this system. So we do have then 3 major systems of veins here. 3 systems of veins that are returning blood to the right atrium of the heart, deoxygenated blood, so that it can then circulate through the lungs, pick up more oxygen, and then be redistributed throughout the body. So these are the major veins of the torso of the body. What we want to look at next will be the hepatic portal system. Now let's remember what this system is here for. And you may know this, good for you. Just let me remind you one more time. These are the veins that are carrying all blood from the digestive organs and others related to them to the liver, which is why the hepatic word is in this system. All blood that is picking up nutrients from these organs are flowing through these veins and into the liver. The veins that you see here all have similar names to the arteries that we were learning in the digestive cavity in our artery picture. So the first concept, the big thing that you want to see here, is that all of this blood is carried to the liver. The liver is going to process that blood, and then that blood is going to be able to return to the inferior vena cava. Remember the hepatic veins there at the superior part of the inferior vena cava. You can see those 3 little stubs. Those are the ones that reach into the liver and are pulling the processed blood out of the liver and back into general circulation. Okay? So here's a list of the veins belonging to this hepatic portal system, and let's detail those out now. Okay, so what veins do we have here? Well, let's cross out a few first. Okay? We're going to simplify this list and make it look a little bit more like the artery list that we were working with before. So, which ones are we going to cross out here? Well, we can take out these here, and a couple of these up above. Now, I'm leaving you with mostly repeats and a few, just a couple, that are brand new. So, if you are looking at blood flowing back from the descending colon, from the sigmoid colon, from down in this area, you would recognize a vein by the same name as the artery that was feeding that area. And that, pardon me, that of course would be the inferior mesenteric artery. Also the superior rectal. Both of those are repeats from the arteries that we learned, both of those draining from the inferior portion of the blood vessels here. So superior rectal and inferior mesenteric are these blood vessels coming up from below. Again, duplicates. Superior mesenteric is draining from, just like it did in the arteries, from the ascending colon, middle colon, from the right side of the abdominal cavity, as well as draining all of the small intestine. The splenic vein is draining from the spleen, as you see here. And then we have a loop of veins, just like the loop of artery that we saw. There's a right gastric and a left gastric vein that create a loop, but notice that they both enter into the same major vein there. The cystic vein, again a duplicate, drains from the gallbladder. And notice then that all of this is draining into one giant central vein. The hepatic veins that are drawn at the top there actually extend all the way through the liver, but that's where the processed blood is leaving the liver. Those hepatic veins are the same ones that you saw in the earlier diagram of veins. The one new one, or the two new ones here, are the pancreatic vein, letter C in the diagram, so there's a separate vein for that. We did not have an artery by the name of pancreatic. And then finally, the portal vein, and that is this one big central vein that all of these others are flowing into. This is distributing. If you follow that vein in, you can see that its veins get smaller and smaller and smaller. It distributes the blood that is rich with digestive nutrients through the liver. And then those hepatic veins are the ones that are taking that processed blood and putting it back into general circulation. Okay, so that's the big picture here, is these veins with duplicate names to the arteries draining all of this digestive blood into the liver. That gives the liver a chance to process nutrients, things that are good for you. Remember that it processes any oral medications that you're taking. Remember that it is processing any poisons like alcohol and all of that. And so we have all of that happening as a consequence of all of this blood re-entering the digestive circulation. And I think that's about it. Okay, so I was thinking that's about it. Actually, I've put voice back to this lecture because it got lost somehow. So I've pretty much said everything there is that follows. I was able to make this short. So if you've seen everything, you're done till the end. But if you follow the rest of this visually, you will see those points come up that I just made about all nutritional blood flowing there, oral medications, and the rest. So I'm done with talking, but you may want to follow some of the points that are made here to the end. Okay? So signing off vocally, but watch the rest of it if you wish.